It's a day set aside for lovers, isn't it? That's what it's known as. It's the holidays of lovers, correct? If you recall, remember how I told you, Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, they were the first family of the occult. The occult beliefs did not change. All that happened when it went to the next culture, just the names changed. The beliefs remained the same. If you go back, you can actually trace all this stuff. Now, with Valentine's Day, notice how this is exactly 13 days after the human night sacrifice of Imbolg. This is nothing but a complete camouflage for an ancient fertility ritual. Now, how many of us have seen this cute little boy before? It's a little difficult to see, but this is Cupid throwing an arrow at his victim known as Psyche. See, Cupid, according to all the legends, he was not a bare-bottomed little cherub just shooting arrows. He was a troublemaker. He got in trouble with the gods themselves, you know. And he himself, as I said, boy, did he get into a lot of trouble. But Cupid, if you check this very carefully, according to the legends, was the son of Venus. Originally, his name was Tammuz. Remember, he's the son of Semiramis. Venus, originally, is the daughter of Jupiter. Well, Semiramis was the wife of Nimrod. Now, this here is the famous rendition that's known as the Venus de Milo. It was found in Milo, Italy. This is the fertility goddess. This is the big brouhaha, what St. Valentine's Day is also about. It is nothing but the reenactment, as I stated, of the ancient fertility rites. Because, continuing on, you find out, Jupiter himself, according to all the myths, was the head god of the pantheon. He was the sun god. Nimrod of Babylon was declared to be the sun god. And if you notice, once it got into Egypt, what was Ra known as? The sun god. It didn't change. Only the names did. That's it. And during this festival of Valentine, there would be a lot of drunkenness going on. There would be sexual orgies going on. And the two most famous sacrifices that people would bring to the temple, to the goddess, were sweets, such as candies, and spring flowers. And isn't that what we're doing to this very day? How many of those candy stores are making a killing, let alone the floral shops? This is the exact recreation of that ancient fertility ritual. And mind you, back then they had a symbol that they used for this ceremony, and it was the human heart. The reason it was the heart was because the heart represented the seat of all emotions, including love. And to this very day, we will reenact this ancient occult ceremony, and we won't even think twice about it. Now, this one is one of my favorites. Groundhog's Day. What could be so occultic or harmful about a groundhog? Well, first of all, groundhog is celebrated on the night of what's known as Imbolg in the occult. It's the night of human sacrifice. But did you know that the groundhog has great metaphysical powers? He can divine the future. You take this creature, you hold him up in the air, you look down, if his shadow is there, you're going to have a long winter. Well, if you're still holding him up there and you look down and there's no shadow, he's your friend now because you're going to have a short winter. This cute little fellow that they're constantly using every year that you see on TV, that's Punxsutawney Phil. Punxsutawney Phil has the ability to tell not only the future, but the weather better than the weatherman. Anyways, oh, by the way, how many of you had ever seen that movie, Groundhog's Day? You want to talk about reincarnation and what it's all about? Anyway, the groundhog itself is the perfect representation of the spring goddess. We're going to do a comparison in a minute. But over here, we see a young maiden, a mature woman, and an old lady. These three ladies represent the three stages of the Earth Mother's life. She comes in as a young maiden. May 1st, she matures into the Earth Mother, and around October, she goes into what's known as the old crone. This is what's known as the maid, the mother, and the crone. This represents the three facets of the Earth Mother. Now, when we take a look at the groundhog and compare it to the Earth Mother, you're going to find that there is no difference. You see, the Earth Goddess, when her time is over and the stag god comes in, she goes into the earth and sleeps until the spring. Isn't this what the groundhog does? He goes into the earth and he hibernates. The Earth Goddess is sleeping in between two specific periods of time, winter and spring. Isn't that exactly what the groundhog is doing? Work with me here. Nod, yes. Don't force me to get desperate. The goddess is known as an earth creature. This is why she is referred to as the Earth Mother. Isn't the groundhog also an earth creature? The Earth Goddess will only begin to reawaken during springtime. That's when she begins to come back into power. That's when she begins to come back as that young maiden. Isn't that when the groundhog also begins to come back? The goddess completes the cycle of the year, or what's also known as reincarnation. Isn't that what the groundhog is doing? And the Earth Goddess, every year, she represents rebirth and renewal. And this is exactly what the groundhog represents. Can you see, when you take them and compare them side by side, step by step, all the way through the belief system, that there is no difference? This is why groundhog became an American holiday, because it was an occult one first. And all that they did, as usual, was Americanize it and put it right in your calendar. Mind you, right on the human night sacrifice of what is known in the occult as in vogue. Now this next one, again, it seems harmless on the surface. How many people, of course, have ever heard of May Day? Of course. Now, May Day itself, on the surface, again, it looks harmless. A lot of people just think it's another time just to come together, share some old times with some old friends, do some dancing, some drinking, what may not. We look at the top of this particular transparency. What are those people doing? Right, they're dancing around the maypole. But what people, first of all, don't realize, you see, first of all, this is on May 1st, what's known as Beltane. Let me explain Beltane to you. B-E-L, or what's known as Baal. You'll find the word Baal and Bel in the Bible, both of them. Constantly throughout the Old Testament, where God told you not to have anything to do with Baal worship. Baal worship is the recreation in the occult now of these